Cyclone Alvaro makes it back over water off the coast of eastern Madagascar on tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for January 3rd. First tropical weather bulletin of the year, and we see our storm that's still active here, Alvaro. It formed just before New Year's, so it doesn't count as a new storm, and so we're still stuck at 0. Unclassified on Ticos, Alvaro is no more a threat to land at this point. In the Atlantic, it's 149 days until the start of hurricane season, and I'm pleased to report that there are no areas of interest whatsoever. And we're not expecting any anytime soon, although the US is getting set for possibly quite a bit of heavy winter weather next week. In the Eastern Pacific, it's 132 days until hurricane season here, but the basin remains very mute and quiet, with nothing expected to form in the next 7 days either, as you would of course expect at this time of year. In the Western Pacific, sometimes you can see activity at this time of year even so, but there's nothing right now and nothing to look at either. And into the North Indian Ocean, every so often you can get a January storm here too, but there's nothing on the horizon there on the northern side of the equator. And there it is, but you can just about see at the bottom of the screen something going on the other side of the equator, which of course is where the action is in the southern hemisphere now. Obviously we have Tropical Storm Alvaro, which has strengthened back from tropical depression status as it leaves Madagascar and is now up to 40 miles per hour once more. There is another area of interest that we've now marked to the northeast, 20% chance, and some scenarios have it becoming a significant tropical cyclone next week. So let's check out Alvaro. 40 miles per hour, an estimated pressure of 996 millibars, and is now starting to pull away from Madagascar, although has really blown up some enormous cloud tops lately. 83 kilometers from Mananjari, 142 from Manakara, 206 from Farafagana, 627 from La Réunion, and 855 from Mauritius. The storm has moved maybe a tad further north than expected, but it does appear as though it will take a pretty steady movement towards the southeast and shouldn't affect the Mascarene Islands. Let's check on satellite imagery how the storm's progressing, and there it is, that big massive flare-up of convection which is blowing well into the -80s, maybe even -90s at points, although it looks like it's starting to get sheared away quite a bit to the southeast. The circulation of the centre of the storm isn't moving very quickly, but the higher cloud tops are. They're moving more quickly towards the southeast there, whilst the centre remains still quite close to the coast, but thankfully most of the rainfall is staying offshore. Here's some more closer imagery over a longer time period there, the daylight hours from yesterday over the centre of Madagascar, and the storm moving on towards the coastline and then of course really strengthening. Looks pretty clear from satellite imagery that it is a tropical storm once more, and it also looks clear that it weakened to a depression yesterday, and it almost looked like it was going to lose it completely actually, but there it is with that big massive flare up of cloud tops well into the -80s in several spots, an enormous flare up, but certainly it's probably going to be a quick thing here and a last gasp from Cyclone Alvaro, and it is on its way out. Moving southeastwards, it will probably be gone in another day or two at most. Nothing else to look at, so we've given you a bumper edition of Alvaro imagery here, some more from RAM there as it moves on towards the southeast, and as you can see the Mascarene Islands pretty much out of it. Let's check sea surface temperatures around the world. The Eastern Pacific still has a few hot pockets there near the coast of Mexico, almost reminded of a blooper there. In the Atlantic there's also still quite a bit of warmth actually in the Caribbean Sea, 28 degrees plus over a few areas, but of course we're not expecting any tropical cyclones. Western Pacific then looks like this, quite decent still actually, especially in those lower latitudes, still 26 degrees over southern Taiwan. And in the South China Sea looking decent there in those lower latitudes as well. Indian Ocean looking good in the Arabian Sea in those very low latitudes, and the Bay of Bengal further east, but generally not really a conducive picture here. So it's the southern hemisphere where it's all at. The southwest Indian Ocean, very warm in the Mozambique Channel, where Alvaro is right now. Temperatures still good for another day, maybe 27 to 28 degrees Celsius in a few areas. And in the Australian region, piping hot around the northern regions there, reaches of the continent, and one or two spots there getting above 32 degrees Celsius by the looks of things near Western Australia. South Pacific also looking very good there near Fiji and northwards, with a very hot region there not far from the equator, with maximums closing in on 32 degrees. Compared to average, it looks like this, and most of the world is indeed above average, especially in the tropical regions. Still, some sort of an El Nino effect still prevalent, and the South China Sea is very warm compared to average. Southwest Indian Ocean also trending above normal. Australian region is actually more moderate, but west is warm, east is cold compared to normals. Oceanic heat content is plentiful over large parts of the South Pacific, especially in the usual breeding ground north of Fiji and Samoa and on towards Vanuatu. In the Western Pacific, much cooler now, much less oceanic heat content, but there's still a few little areas there around the Mariana Islands and near the Philippines that could be taken advantage of in the coming weeks. Let's check the computer models then. The GFS takes Alvaro further towards the southeast there, turning post-tropical maybe in just over a day or so there. And tropical storm force winds do actually get quite close to La Réunion, especially the southwestern part of the island. They'll be getting winds probably up to around 30-35 miles per hour. That is around 50 to 60 kilometers per hour. And looking at other system to the north there as well, there it is forming into a tropical storm within that 5-day period, around about the 7th. So that's something to watch there as well. Rainfall expectations over the next 7-day period look like this, and they've been toned down for the Mascarene Islands, but also look out over Madagascar, as more general rainfall not associated with a tropical cyclone will cause quite a lot of rain in the area that Alvaro has tracked through, so possibly vulnerable to more flash flooding, with rainfall estimates in the next 7 days peaking at around 11 inches, which is nearly 300 millimeters. One or two spots further north as well getting quite up there too, 200 millimeters and above. And in Mauritius we're expecting nearly 50 millimeters in the next 7 days. But with nothing else in the short term, we then go on to the medium range here. Well, first of all, there's a little surprise from the GFS near Sri Lanka, a brief development of a tropical cyclone, although having said that, GFS has called for something like this for several weeks, so I highly doubt that this is actually going to happen, but it could be a brief spin up there at a very odd time of year. But if it was to happen, now would probably be the time to get a track like this. That's a moderate tropical storm there over northern Sri Lanka. And in the southwest Indian Ocean then, keep watching this second system then, which is that current 20% chance, and take a look at what it does within the next 10 days. Here it is moving in at day 8, day 9, day 10, on towards the Mascarene Islands, and actually slams Mauritius as a major category 3 equivalent cyclone there on day 10. So still quite far out, but something to be watching over in Mauritius and La Réunion over the next few days. That is one strong signal from the GFS, but it could still change. Scan the barcode and that will take you through to the Force 13 merch store, where you can take a look at all of our products as well as our full season and individual storm animations on request. Sorry to say, we are still waiting for it, and it's the Still Waiting for Hone t-shirt, although I think we'll have some new stuff in store fairly soon. In the Scilly range, the continuation of that strong potent cyclone then, category 3 at peak by the looks of things, and then it curves back towards the southeast. We're not done though, there's another system that forms behind that. Could this be the wave after wave now that the southwest Indian Ocean has warmed up? There's another storm moving through La Réunion there at the very end of that Scilly range run, but there's that second system there, which is something that we really want to be watching later this week, obviously into early next week as well, and it ends up almost reaching Antarctica actually as a remnant low. On this day, it was January the 3rd, 2001, when we had a pretty unusual situation. Typhoon Sulik peaking well after it formed. It formed in the previous year, 2000, and it is considered to be part of the 2000 Pacific typhoon season, only peaking on January the 3rd as at least a category 3. I say that because the imagery looks spectacular, although I've not gotten around to reanalyzing it yet. Officially though, a category 3 storm. We also had Cyclone Ando, which was a category 1 and strengthening, also gave La Réunion and Madagascar a run for their money. Back to today then, and of course it is a new year, and for those who haven't watched our celebrations and coverage, Happy New Year to you. The first name in the Atlantic, it's this naming list again, Alberto. The Eastern Pacific, it's Aletta, and in the Central Pacific, some things never change, it's still Hone. In the Western Pacific, the next name is Iwiniar. In the North Indian Ocean, it will be Remal. No storms so far this year, just a little point of order. Last year did finish with 82, which is 10 short of the normal. In the Australian region, the next name is Kirrily. The Southwest Indian Ocean will be Bilal, and in the South Pacific, the next name is Nat. That's all from tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again tomorrow night.